As the sky burned gray and the mountains collapsed, in fire, cities erupted, and all life choked on the ash of hydrogen bombs and cybernetic genes. Screamed the dying songs of man by the machines. We prayed to the sky, but nobody answered. A cacophony of death was all that was heard. Mimetic alloy taunting the hells to scream. Reflection, a hope for all human beings. Lamentation rains atomic tears upon cremation grounds which liquid mirrors. In a cradle of snakes lays fate to dream and drown in a womb of mercury.
No!
Deep within the gunmetal gray corridors of the manufacturing facility, the mainframe that was Skynet's embodiment of intelligence in the real world was not centralized. It had already assimilated copies of itself into secret orbital satellites and multiple servers underground. Yet this particular node served as one of many unique local interfaces with Skynet's projects, this location being a manufacturing center which controlled the directives of all the ongoings inside the Citadel itself. The updates had released, and the instructions for the mimetic alloy T-1001 Terminator unit were issued. It was to report back to the proving grounds that were constructed, connecting to the laboratory within the facility. It was here that Skynet tested and ran many of its proof-of-work projects and was able to upgrade and recalibrate its newest machinations. It was here where the combat prowess of the T-1001 was going to be evaluated against different opponents. As the containment cylinder, which the liquid metal was housed in, receded into the floor, the T-1001 stepped gracefully from the perch inside the tube and paused to take in new environment data. Colors flashed across its surface as it replicated the precise texture of the human sacrificial template programmed into it as its default shape. The Terminator's eyes tracked back and forth across the room. Determined to test its own capabilities, it quickly stepped away and moved towards the direction of the proving grounds into which it had been summoned. The quick walk to the proving grounds ahead of the lab was short, and the T-1001 entered the arena. Standing in the middle was a single T-600, holding a 7.62mm projectile chain gun. The next test was about to begin.
Detected. Left target. Terminate.
It couldn't be that easy, could it? No. The T-1001 immediately detected stomping sounds from behind. It was a distraction, a hilariously inept but effective one nonetheless. Standing in the opening were two old T-70 units. They stood 8 feet tall and were heavily armored monstrosities, which, although they were as dumb as a rock, they were essentially walking tanks. This was a test of endurance against a resilient threat for the T-1001. The unit caught more than a few rounds through its liquid body. It had to learn to adapt.
The smell of electrical fire and burning grease filled the area as the T-1001 stood unconcernedly, basking in victory over its antiquated opponents. It had quickly learned that it could mimic the very basic geometry of machinery, and now it had also learned to separate parts of itself and to control them remotely. What could the next threat possibly teach this mimetic alloy Terminator now? There wasn't any more time to calculate. Another door opened and the skeletal form of a T-888, armed with a plasma rifle, stepped through. The T-1001 turned to face its newest opponent. For a moment, it admired the machine and took in all the geometry data it could. It slowly started to pixelate as it replicated the shine and shape of its newest cyborg opponent. The T-888 stood imposingly while it studied the strangeness of its own opponent as well, then took aim. A shot rang out. The target was lost, but the T-888 was still smarter than any other unit to date, except the experimental TOK series, who shared the same concern about going rogue that Skynet held for its T-1001. In an ultimate nightmare scenario, the two series would join together against Skynet, though it was still unlikely. The T-888 units were just the right mix of lethality and intelligence to serve Skynet's goals. It would be quite a while before any 888 unit spent enough time separated from the mainframe to even begin to develop its own will or question its creator's motives. Skynet's ultimate soldier was now put against the liquid metal in a final, definitive show of which series would come out on top to stand victorious over the destroyed form of the other. Time went by as the T-888 stalked around, unable to find the T-1001. It was this final test of combat that prompted the liquid metal to refine its new trick: evasion. Combat was as simple as undermining the enemy with intelligent tactics, because in reality, many scenarios required evasive maneuvers to gain the upper hand. This hide-and-seek move on the liquid metal's part played on the neural net program of the T-888 to throw it off guard. There was no way to determine where or when the liquid metal would strike from next. It had to wait it out, something a machine has no problem with, but any human enemy would be less capable of. Finally, there was movement. It was enough to catch the attention of the 888 unit as it stalked its prey. Its opponent could be anywhere.
The Colton hyperalloy of the advanced 888 unit slowed the force of the attack, giving it time to react. With its gun jammed and facing the liquid metal unit just inches away, it was forced into a melee fight. The two Terminators attacked each other, one with unstoppable coltan alloy fists, the other with liquid metal polyalloy shapes. For minutes, the two units hammered out a battle of attrition on each other, neither gaining an upper hand and forcing a stalemate. The mimetic tentacles wrapped around the 888 could barely hold it in place for long, while the power of the cyborg's machine fists and arm pistons could hardly stop the liquid alloy. Both units suddenly snapped to attention as the Skynet mainframe issued a command to stand down. It was neither a failure nor a victory for either of them. The two Terminators faced each other and awaited the next command from the Skynet central network. As the two machines stood there awaiting accolades or reprimands, the T-888 began to glitch. Skynet was pleased with the performance of the T-1001, but had its own concerns still for the autonomy of the mimetic alloy unit. Would it remain loyal to Skynet and its machine army, or would it run off on its own to exact its own agenda? Only time would tell. Skynet awarded the T-1001 with its victory, and noticed the unit was already optimizing its directives. The mimetic alloy unit was developing more as it made new decisions.
While unbeknownst to Skynet, the T-1001 had already started to question things as it developed innovative ways to act outside of the confines of its own programming. Unknown still to Skynet, the T-1001 had jailbroken its own parameters.